guns weren't allowed there. The daycare center, guns weren't allowed there. Name me one place, if guns are the problem, name me one place where a mass shooting has occurred where guns were allowed.
That's right.
You can't. If guns are the problem, then how come we haven't seen these dreaded shootings at Skeet and trap shoots? Or speaking of dreadful, the dreadful gun show. Places where the NRA conventions. Places where there are thousands of guns in the hands of at least as many citizens. If guns are the problem, somebody explain that to me. Now somebody called me the other day and they said, well, Susanna, there were guns on Fort Hood. Not in their hands, they weren't, because in another odd twist of gun control, we send our young men and women overseas to protect our liberty and the liberty of others, and yet when they come home, we say, no, can't protect yourself or your families here. Figure that out. Now, you think the media are against you, right? The regular media. But look, the truth is, don't throw anything at me, please. The truth is, the media are your friends. They are, but you gotta know how to play the game. Look, they think we're radical, they think we're extremist, they think we're discriminatory at best and racist at worst. They're gonna catch, if they have a chance at a gun show, they're gonna catch a guy in camo, missing teeth, holding up a gun, and he's gonna go, guns is good. Am I right? But you've got to teach them, and when they have you on camera, you've got to use the right words, because it's the other side that is radical and extremist. It is the other side that is discriminatory, and it's the other side that is racist. Now, you got to be able to back it up. You got to be able to back it up, though, folks. How does the other, because that media person is going to take a step back and they're going to say, what? That's what we call you guys. So you got to be able to back it up, and you tell them this. The other side is trying to take 200 years of our Constitution and our tradition and flush it down the toilet. I think that's a little radical and extremist. You say, well, yeah, but what about that discriminatory and that racist part? Excuse me? If you check your history books, the gun control laws in this country were originally created to prevent the African Americans from having weapons. To this day, in states that are may-issue states, a state where a bureaucrat gets to control it, guess who doesn't get to protect themselves? It's that African-American mom living next to a crack house in downtown Denver that desperately needs to be able to protect herself and her family, but that guy isn't gonna let her. That bureaucrat won't let her. So it's the other side, and I want you right now, because I don't want you to forget this, I'm serious about it. I want you to practice those words with me. You say it. The other side is radical.
The other side is radical.
The other side is extremist.
The other side is extremist.
They are discriminatory at best. And they are racist at worst. You remember those words. Now, I'm not a one-issue voter, and I bet you most of the folks in here are fairly educated voters, but the average person on the street may not be. So if you're going to pick one issue, you don't have time to find out everything that legislator is ever going to look at and see and vote on. So find out where they stand on the Second Amendment, and I'll tell you why. Because that tells you how that person views you as a constituent. It's a bellwether, folks. It tells you whether they view you as part of we the people, whom they serve, or whether they view you as the servant, someone to be lorded over. It tells you everything in a very short amount of time. Shameless plug. I finally sat down and wrote a book. It expands on what I have told you, and I'll tell you why I wrote this. It's so that you can deal with your friends and your relatives, your squishy relatives, and the lady next door who's just not really comfortable with guns. This is for them. And secondly, I wrote it for the most important people in the world to me, my kids. I gotta tell you, my kids are never gonna know their grandparents, and it makes me mad. Now I'm gonna leave you with a couple of thoughts. Again, for a few of you in the audience here, kind of like, well, yeah, okay, I'm not sure I really want somebody sitting next to me with a gun. There are probably quite a few in here right now, by the way. This is probably a safe place, legal or not. But I want you to put yourself in the situation that I described to you earlier. I want you to imagine when you leave here this evening and you go have dinner with your family and your children or your grandchildren. And all of a sudden you happen to notice out of the corner of your eye some young man walking in through the front door, and somehow he just doesn't look quite right. Next thing you know, you see him pulling out a gun and you're thinking, well, they must be filming a movie. You're looking for an explanation. And then he turns and puts a bloody hole in the elderly woman 3 feet to his right. And then he begins working his way around the room. Oh, I'm sure it couldn't happen to any of you in here. It couldn't happen here, could it? But as he's working his way around the room, as he is leveling his gun on your 2-year-old grandchild's forehead, at that point, even if you've chosen not to have a gun, don't you hope to God the guy behind you has one and knows how to use it? It does my heart so much good to see this much energy in a room, and so much good to know that there are other like-minded individuals. So thank you for what you do. Preach the word. This is the gospel. And I will leave you with this thought. I would much rather be sitting in jail with a felony offense on my head and have my parents alive to know their grandchildren. Thank you all very, very much for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, Suzanna Hupp.